Well, well, well. If it isn't you guys who are my loving audience, and hopefully that you are all having an absolutely wonderful day. Look, I have a stab for you. And I'm also going to wave to you. Look, there's a wave. Indeed. You know, I've been running around and I've been thinking about Kashmir and Kashmir Shaivism because, you know, I love me some Shiva. I also love me some Kali. Kali's my favorite, as you know. And, you know, it occurred to me that one of the main reasons I like to worship Kali is because she's not afraid of transcending boundaries. You see, I am the kind of person that after years and years of investigating spirituality, philosophy, uh, religion in general, you know, societies, sociology, all this different stuff, the thing that has kept occurring to me is that the vast majority, excuse me, and what? The vast majority of boundaries and things that we set up are basically empty. You know, because I was doing all this investigation into the emptiness, and the emptiness is like this whole idea that you can't really define these, like anything is essence. And I could probably do a better explanation of emptiness, but like basically the idea is that okay, are things made up of one part or multiple parts? Most things are made up of multiple parts, right? And what you do is you take apart those parts and then you say, okay, so is that part itself made of multiple parts or is it made of one part? And you keep going down. You can do this all the way till you get to atoms. And the thing that's kind of interesting about all this is if you really examine just about everything, everything is kind of empty of this essential isness. They're empty of this like this idea of being a ooh, that was a one shot. I didn't think it would be a one shot. But they're empty of like this essential nature of being like is this like for instance is like a clay pot separate from clay, and it's not separate from clay. Is a gold ornament separate from gold? It's not separate from gold, right? Like if you try to take gold away from the ornament, you wouldn't have anything. You would just have the ornament still because the ornament is made of gold. Basically, I was breaking down everything and thinking about this and meditating on emptiness. And the thing that has occurred to me is that the older I've gotten, especially, I just find that boundaries and barriers and things like that just are fairly meaningless. The thing that I notice over and over again when I look into like purity and all these other ideas is that a lot of this is just things we generate. And that was another reason that I liked Ma Kali. Ma Kali encouraged me to really examine the things around me and really look at them for what they were. And to like see that all of these individual things, like all these trees here, for instance, all these rocks, all this other stuff, is actually interconnected. They're all made of the same thing. They're made of these atoms, and they're made of, you know, the same thing, which is ultimately, once you keep breaking things down, you get to pure consciousness. At least that has been my experience. Some people, obviously, in certain Buddhist schools and other things like that would disagree with me. But from my own experience, I have seen things break down and eventually get to nothing but consciousness. It's all connected to the same greater consciousness that is Shiva, that is the eternal, unchanging foundation of all of being, that light, that bliss that is at the end of all reality. That is God, and interacting with that is a tremendous pleasure. And this has led me to believe that, you know, there's no such thing as pure or impure. Within this vessel that I currently live in, it is neither pure nor impure. It is simply a vessel. I can wash, I can do the rituals, I can do all these things in an attempt to get a certain kind of purity of this vessel or a certain kind of cleanliness of this vessel so that I can approach God. But the truth is that God is within not just this vessel, but all vessels. You know, even if they're a spooky, scary skeleton looking thing like this spooky, scary skeleton is just as much made of God as I am. Hey, Don't do that. And so are all of these dead plants and the sand and all this other stuff. And you can really see if you've ever meditated on emptiness or if you've ever meditated on like uh, the idea of fullness, which ideas of emptiness and fullness are actually interconnected. You'll see that all of these things are connected and that all of these things are one. All of these things are, in a sense, equally God. But it is our perceptions, our understandings that prevent us from seeing things like this. And then what I have found is that there are certainly ways in which God appears to some of us that are just innately more pleasurable and pure to us than others. Some of us, for instance, love the idea of Christ. Others of us love the idea of the formless God and things like Allah, or, like the Abrahamic God. Or some of us love Hanuman. Some of us love Kali. There's all kinds of different little things out there. But ultimately, all of these images as well are empty of anything. We can have our own preferences and things like that, and certain things that will call to us and bring us closer to the understanding of truth, which is ultimately that all things are Shiva, all things are Brahman, all things are Allah, all things are this one unending reality of God, and that even though everything is changing and twisting and turning, it's always... Are you guys just over here screaming? Why? Yeah, they're just like over here, just like screaming for some reason. That's kind of weird. But, and all of these things are connected. And what this has caused me to realize is that boundaries are largely illusory. And I'm bringing all of this up because, to me, this is part of the reason why I am so willing to syncretize various different belief structures and various different things. I'm willing to worship Christ, Krishna, and Kali as forms of God. I think they're all ultimately parts of the same form of God. I praise Ahura Mazda, and I think that, although Zoroastrians would obviously disagree with me on this, I think ultimately these are all forms of the same greater divinity. They represent different aspects. Perhaps they emphasize one thing more than another. Perhaps they get us to look at reality in certain ways. Now, while we are within these trapped forms, though, it can be very beneficial to, for instance, go away from... I just want to say, do I have... I don't have... I would have thought I would have had a ash. Okay, there's this guy. Let's see, can I think I need to get into combat with the... Actually, I may have already killed this thing over here, now that I'm thinking about it. Hey, how you doing? I see you grew a tree out of your head. But the thing that was very interesting to me is that I was listening to Swami Sarapirananda, and one of the things he was mentioning was that, as an example, from a Hindu perspective, we wouldn't... If someone could say that God is male, and we would say yes, but if you do not include that God is also female, you have an incomplete God. If you're talking about God as female, then we would say yes, but if you don't include both the no. Nope, I thought I would... There we go. Thank you, friend. Ingval. You have to include all these various different aspects. God is both with form and without form. God can appear as the formless, or can appear to us as the formless or the formed. God is this ultimate thing, right? And it's, well, not God is not really a thing. God is not the object. God is the subject. We are all part of God in that way. And I suppose the thing that's interesting to me about this is the more I've thought about it, and the more I've been studying Kashmir Shaivism, I feel like a lot of the rituals we do to get closer to God are probably needless if we just have the correct view on God and we have the correct understanding of God. I still chant my mantras because they are sweet to the tongue. I still think about God and worship the image of Kali because it is sweet to me. It makes me feel like I'm getting closer, but I don't think it's required of anyone to do either of those things. I think that there is a purity of essence within all of these things. The one true essence of all things is God. That is the thing that actually fills that emptiness we were talking about earlier. And this has been an experience that I've had time and again. When I had my mystical vision where God showed me the cosmos, stretching out infinitely, and then showed me it going down all the way to particles and waves. When I saw the universe as this great fire burning on Lord Krishna's thigh. When I saw all these other different visions that I've had over the years, the sheer vast complexity of it all has made me see things in this interesting way. And it's also made it so that part of the reason I'm so attached to the image of Kali and the Agoris is because I think they show us a fundamental truth, which is that the barriers that we put onto things, the barriers that we think are so integral to life and to understanding and all these other things. Let's see, can I summon this guy again? Actually, no, here, let me rest at this thing and then try to see if I can summon the guy again. Because I always like having Ingwell for help. He's a cool guy. I think that these things are like, flashes in the pan. I think that they are... Nope. Whoop. Let's really get back on my horse. Oop. Hey, come back here. Come back here, you... Witch King looking weirdo. I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna jab, I'm gonna jab, I'm gonna jab, 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 jab. Like that. Gotcha. Ooh. That's a big flail. Wait, I just want to see. What does that look like if I... Oh, where is it? Oh no, there it is, okay. I feel like if I dip this in holy water, that would be kind of fun, just running into a church and just like, Pearl Crystal, what is you? What's that? Just watering the entire audience. Actually, no, that'd be a great way to water your flowers. But that is where I'm at, and the more I think about it, the more pure that makes sense to me. The more that understanding of life and of these barriers that we put up, the more it makes sense to me. I think, like the Sufism, the mystical Christianity, the Hinduism, the Buddhism, I think all of these things can kind of come together into a beautiful thing. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that I wouldn't say that I'm like a Muslim and a Hindu and a Buddhist and all these other things at the same time. If I had to describe myself as one thing, I would say, probably mystic or Hindu. Like I wouldn't say that I'm all of these things at the same time. that I'm all of these different, categories at the same time or anything like that. But I would say that connecting them together has given me a great deal of insight and has given me a great deal of, excuse me, sir, and has given me a great deal of peace and understanding as I've navigated through things. It's helped open up, worlds of like Islamic and Sufi literature to me. It's helped me understand Meister Eckhart. It's helped me understand, the Dharma of the Buddha in an interesting way, and very specifically like Nagarjuna and, later teachers in an interesting way, and like doctrines on emptiness. And I've found it as I practiced and incorporated these different ideas into all together, and incorporated, like prayers from like the Gathas and like from Zoroaster as well. It all, to me, seems to knit together seamlessly. Someone from the outside might say, "Hey, you're doing it wrong, or you're not doing it in the way I do it." But I mean, I think that we have an infinite, or just about infinite way that we can understand and perceive God and the grace of God within all things, you know what I mean, Jimmy Dean? And there's also room in there for people who don't believe in God, and I think that it's all wonderful and working together, and that we don't need to make enemies of each other. I think that our understanding can deepen, and that there is no one right way to look at all this. And I don't know, I guess I was just thinking about all that different stuff, and I just wanted to share with you like how this like path of synchronicity, of synchronizing all these different things, and like seeing the teachings of Christ and Muhammad and the Sufi masters and all these others, and how they blend together and make sense to me. So I just wanted to share all that. Hopefully you find that interesting and can think of things in a new light. I would also recommend a book, um, Meditations on Progressive Stages of Emptiness. I'll put like a link to the Amazon or something like that in the video uh, details or whatever like that, and maybe you guys can check that out. Anyway, I hope that you all enjoyed me babbling about all this, and hopefully you found it informative, and maybe it'll get you to think about things in new ways. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.